Hey, friendo, Steve here.
And Larson.
On today's Going In Raw news brief, a WWE superstar claims this is the golden age of wrestling. An indie favorite is confirmed as next in line for Cody's TNT title open challenge, and we preview tonight's Smackdown. But first, we're hearing that Vince McMahon is on a mission to create new stars. Larson, what's in the news?
With declining ratings for both Raw and SmackDown the norm during the pandemic/empty arena era, and with Bruce Pritchard replacing Paul Heyman as executive director of Raw, there was a bit of chatter online that WWE would focus on established talent to help bring those ratings back up. But on the heels of reports earlier this week, it seemed to indicate that Vince wasn't stressing about WWE's ratings woes. Dave Meltzer is reporting in the latest Wrestling Observer newsletter that Vince is building for the future. The Wrestling Observer himself stated, quote, "What is notable is that Vince McMahon actually has said that since Mania is over, with a lot of guys missing due to COVID and other reasons, that this is the time where they have to make new stars," which seems to contradict most of the actual creative that is going on.
Yeah, if you look at the main event of Raw this past week, Big Show versus Randy Orton, not exactly a couple of
New
spring
stars.
chickens.
New stars, man.
Ric Flair has been on Raw programming.
That's how you have to look at this. So Randy Orton, legend killer Randy Orton back in the day, new star, right?
Yeah,
That's what really sent him into the main event.
Yeah.
They're just circling back to that old gimmick, which made him a new star. Therefore, he's a new star.
Yeah, I could see it from both. Look, number one, Vince being on a mission to do anything is a flawed premise, given that his missions seem to come and go on a whim.
That's the issue. He'll have a mission one day, and the next day he'll wake up, and his next mission will be the exact opposite of what his previous mission was.
You could kind of see some of that, maybe. Like, for example, Matt Riddle's been given a pretty big, call up to the main roster with a pretty high-profile victory over AJ Styles, and he lost last week, But I mean, you can kind of see it. I don't know if there's much proof in the pudding, although he also wasn't it in the Wrestling Observer? I read this, and I'll have to source it. But did you read anything about the idea that Daniel Bryan and Edge are both highly?
That was from the newsletter as well.
Okay,
yeah.
good. Okay,
they are more or less part of the creative team these days.
I mean, you could consider that as backstage, anyways, is handing over creative influence to, I'm not going to say younger guys, but certainly guys who haven't been involved in creative before that we've heard of. I mean,
well, at least in an official capacity. I'm sure Daniel Bryan has a lot of say over his own creative. Yeah.
It seemed that way for a little while for Daniel Bryan, especially since he returned. It seems like they sort of let him do what he wants. But that gets, he had the WWE Championship for a spell. I mean, that's a pretty big profile to have, creatively speaking.
Yeah. So what do you think of? Sorry, go ahead.
No, that was. Go ahead.
I was thinking, you could probably mention, some newer up and coming talent that they've focused on. Apollo Crews won the U.S. title.
Yeah.
Andrade and Angel Garza have been a serious focus on Raw.
The Profits, War Raiders.
Yeah. The flip side of that, though, is they haven't really done anything with Aleister Black of consequence. He's involved, but he's involved more as a proxy as opposed to him being in his own storyline. That's about him and his own competitive nature, his own rivalry with somebody else. So
for one thing, I agree. But you did. I mean, look, we just rattled off 6 names at least.
Just on Raw, yeah.
Just on Raw, and then a couple more on SmackDown. And yeah, maybe Aleister Black just isn't one of the guys that Vince sees much in. That's a possibility. And he sees stuff in Street Profits, War Raiders, in Angel Garza, in Andrade, and those kind of guys. The thing is, though, so over on Raw, we've got the Hurt Business, which is 3 old timers. They're all over 40. And they're entering into a feud seemingly right now with 3 other younger guys. You've got Ricochet, you've got Cedric Alexander, you've got Mustafa Ali now, who made his Raw debut since being traded to SmackDown. Those are 3 young guys. If you want to make them stars, Larson, what do you have to do?
Let them win.
Let them win.
Let them win.
And the Street Profits, they're the champions right now. The War Raiders are always up there. They're featured. Garza and Andrade, I could see them becoming new tag champions. But yeah, you need to have the younger guys go over the older guys. You need to have, if you're going to build up Randy Orton, Drew McIntyre's got to come out of the, if that's the deal, if they're going to do Randy versus Drew, even if it's not at SummerSlam, even if SummerSlam is their, second act, which ends badly for Drew, Drew's going to have to come back and get that rub from Randy Orton in order to build new stars. And hopefully that's in the plans.
Here's another way to do it as well is we've seen glimpses, maybe a hint of some sort of thing happening between Orton, Andrade, Angel Garza. You want to help build up Andrade and Angel Garza? Yeah, give them some wins. Have them form a faction with Randy Orton.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Especially the run Orton's on right now.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I could see it. I could see, look, they have, just between their two main roster shows, they've got 5 hours of content every week, and you can see a little bit of both. I mean, they're trying to bring in ratings by featuring Randy Orton versus Big Show, which obviously didn't work. At the in the same time, they're spotlighting younger stars. I could see that being the thing. I do kind of wonder. This is probably not on their minds, but you have to wonder: is now the time to do that? Are these stars going to be? And there's no way around this. There's no way around this. But given that we're in such a crap state of affairs right now, I'm just spitballing. Would crowds associate success right now as something that deserves an asterisk? There's no fans. It's weird. It's not great. It's a down period for wrestling. Are people going to associate the Street Profits as tag team champions in a negative way because of like when the success is coming?
I don't think so. Because here's the thing: if a certain wrestler or a certain tag team achieve a great level of success, kayfabe, winning titles, winning matches, etc., but also at the same time find a great deal of success connecting with viewers at home. There's no fans to play off of. There's not that immediate reaction for the wrestlers or for people backstage to gauge interest. So if we go another 6, 8, 12 months with things the way they are before we get back in front of fans, and Street Profits come out, and it's the loudest pop you ever heard.
Yeah,
because they managed to connect with fans through the television.
Yeah.
Then I guess it could be a potential barometer of how well certain talents are projecting their characters, their charisma, their abilities through the camera lens on the TV screens to viewers at home.
Yeah,
rather
you
than
can
getting that immediate feedback in the arena.
There's been, the only sort of proof with that I can see right now in terms of tangible evidence to suggest that stars are being sort of created in the way that they want is Bayley and Sasha, because when they're on NXT beat AEW in the overall viewership. When they're not on NXT, we saw what happens this week. So you see stuff like that, and you see, okay, well, they're doing this properly in a couple ways. I think that they're going to get a big shot. And you're right. There's nothing they can do about it. There's no fans, and what are they going to do? Like, they have more young talent now than they have. How many? There aren't that many Edges injured now. You can't rely on him. So yeah, I don't know. I think it's a good idea. So far, I really like the segment between Hurt Business and Cedric and Ricochet and Mustafa Ali this past week. It's just we have to make sure that they look really good coming out of all this in the end. Otherwise, you're kind of doing it for naught. I want to see Ricochet and Cedric and Mustafa Ali doing all this crazy stuff in the ring so that when the fans do come back, they will get that big pop. Street Profits are going to be, I think the Street Profits are the perfect way to kick off when you've got 8,000, 10,000, 15,000 of billing. Street Profits, that song, they're, partying with the crowds, all that kind of stuff. I think they're going to be over. They got a lot of young talent. And some of it's gonna end up on the short end of the stick, like seemingly Aleister Black at this point. That still boggles my mind.
He's got everything, man.
He's got everything. He could be a main eventer.
Yeah, he could.
So speaking of the time of wrestling in which we're living in now, A certain WWE wrestler seems to think that this is in fact the golden age of wrestling because according to a recent tweet, Seth Rollins is seemingly of the opinion that wrestling today is the best wrestling. Here is what the Monday Night Messiah had to say from coast to coast and sea to sea. I don't know if there's ever been this much incredible wrestling going on at one time. Taking nothing away from past generations, they inspired and paved the way, but we're damn sure keeping up. And then some. Hashtag iron sharpens iron. Hashtag the golden age. So here's my question about this. Was this tweet saved to his drafts from like the first All Out or the first Double or Nothing? And maybe he was sending it out then to say, hey, look at all the stuff that's going on around the world, not just here, but look at AEW, look at New Japan, look at WWE, look at everything we're doing.
Yeah.
Because right now it's a really weird time.
Yeah, no, I understand
send that out.
I don't. When I read this, I did interpret it as on July 24th, 2020, on this date, wrestling's the best it's ever been.
On this day,
I interpret it as this era of wrestling. This group of incredibly talented men and women have elevated professional wrestling to heights it's never seen before. And I think from an in-ring perspective, he's 100% right. I think the in-ring product across the board has never been better. Star power isn't what it was in the past, but that's something else. I don't think it's a lack of talented men and women in all the various companies. I think there's a lot of people that could transcend wrestling, become huge mainstream stars. It's just the opportunity may not necessarily be laid out before them to take the steps to get to that point.
I think you're probably right. I think what he means is there is more overall talent on the planet right now than there ever has been. I just think it's funny because, dude, obviously before pandemic, there was a stretch thanks to social media and given how much independent wrestling there was in the world, every weekend when another big high profile or even not high profile indie show would run and there'd be some gifable moment that just trends on Twitter or goes throughout wrestling Twitter. And it's like, man, and you honestly, you have this thought. There's so much great wrestling happening in the world right now between all the big companies on the planet and all the little companies on the planet with all the hungry wrestlers trying to build their names and doing it through things like Twitter or YouTube or whatever.
Yep.
That's when I felt that way. These days, I'm like, man, it sucks that everybody in the independent world has to stay at home. I mean, I know Ring of Honor, they're starting to run empty shows, I think. Impact. Is Ring of Honor? I
haven't heard anything about Ring of Honor starting back up yet.
I thought they were running empty arena shows. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Obviously, Impact is running shows, and that got a lot of buzz this past weekend with Slammiversary. AEW is obviously doing a bang-up job, and everybody in WWE, all the workers do a really good job there. So yeah, I think, hey, it's a really positive thing that he has said. It's just right now when I think of the golden age of wrestling, I'm like, man, there's so many people sitting at home right now, and it bums me out. Right now, for me, it's kind of a bummed out period of wrestling. So anyways, but I don't know. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Seth's spot on.
I think if he's referring to the level of talent across the board, and I think he's 100% right if that's the case. The level of talent across the board is off the charts, man.
I just wonder what he was watching.
Maybe he saw this next thing we're going to talk about and was like, wow, look at this. An independent wrestler who may have been just sitting at home. Now he's getting a huge opportunity.
Yeah.
So people have been asking for it. Arn Anderson even mentioned this wrestler's name when at something the topic of potential challengers was broached. But today, AEW made it official. Indie wrestling sensation Warhorse will challenge Cody for the TNT Championship next Wednesday on Dynamite. Cody reacted to the news by tweeting, quote, "You asked for it. AEW is giving it to you." And then he says also, "But I predict this won't be long. He doesn't get outside of 5 minutes with me." Warhorse responded to Cody by tweeting in all caps, "Cody said I can kick his ass and take his belt in 5 minutes."
Oh, wow. Wow. I wonder if that's a shoot. He got an email from Cody. Hey, good news.
Hey, you're gonna squash me in 5 minutes to take this belt.
Uh-huh.
So, but like they're moving the goalposts, so it's not so much can Warhorse win TNT title is can he last 5 minutes with Cody Rhodes?
Yeah, I was trying to see in the comment section of our AEW review, I think I laid out a predictions challenge to see, who do you think is going to be the next challenger? I'm trying to see if somebody this morning after this was announced
goes in there and says
responded with Warhorse. Yeah. Oh man. So I'll have to take a look at that and see who wins that prize, whatever that prize will be. This is cool, man. This is really neat. This is going to
It is really neat. It's great that AEW's given wrestlers who otherwise might not have a whole lot of options an opportunity to showcase their skills on a pretty large stage. I think that's great. I mean, Eddie Kingston's been around for almost 2 decades. He's an established name in independent ranks. I know he was at Impact. He was just in NWA. But I would wager that Dynamite this past week is maybe the largest platform he's ever had to showcase his abilities. And he hit an absolute home run.
Yeah, he did.
He was great. So I love they're doing this. I think it's fantastic.
I agree. So that begs the question, though. Now that, because Warhorse was like the big one that everybody's like, when is this going to happen? When is this going to happen? Now that that's done, I want to know what the friendos think. Who do you want to see after that? Do you guys want to see, do your friendos want to see more AEW get shots at this TNT title, more AEW wrestlers get shots at these titles, or do you want to see AEW continue to look outside of their own company for open challenge opponents for Cody? Let us know in the comments below. Tonight we've got Smackdown, and there are 3 preview items.
Yes.
First up, we've got Jeff Hardy. Oh, yeah, probably in the main event.
Yeah, this is guaranteed the main event.
Jeff Hardy and Sheamus are going to throw down in a bar fight.
Ooh. Naomi set to continue the conversation on Miz TV.
Oh, that's interesting. Ooh. Hey, what if that Booker T thing was just a work? To get Naomi like even more of a platform for the Naomi deserves better hashtag.
Yeah, I don't know.
And then finally, the draw. Bayley and Sasha Banks set to address the championship landscape. Wait a second. When is that match happening?
Which match?
The Sasha versus Asuka one for the Raw Championship.
That's on Raw next week.
Oh, Raw. God. Bayley and Sasha are every episode of WWE these days.
Brand Invitational. That's already out the window.
Yeah, I'm down with that. I love them. I think they're great. I just watched the other day. Somebody posted a video. Maybe it's the anniversary of, or maybe not, of Bayley's main roster call up at Battle. Remember that Battleground pay-per-view that she came to? Oh man, the pop for that was just obscene. It was so great, and you can just tell Sasha was so incredibly, genuinely excited for that moment. It was really terrific. I love them both.
Remember that.
They're great. But anyways, hopefully you guys will join us for our SmackDown recap and review tonight, live on the Twitch at twitch.tv/Steve and Larson. Usually we go live between
usually around 7:30 or so.
Around 7:30 or so, yeah. So be sure to follow us at twitch.tv/Steve and Larson. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We appreciate it. Till next time, we'll talk to you later.
Goodbye.